Well, you are working on arguably maybe what could be the most important movie of recent history, and that is a sequel to The Passion. The Passion rocked the world. Mm-hmm. There's no denying that fact. I remember when I was invited by Mel Gibson to see an early version of it, and even before all the CG was done, and not that it had a lot of CG, but certain things were not done yet. Then I remember there was people were questioning, well, why is it in Aramaic? And they were pushing back. And I felt what Mel did by having it in Aramaic was you felt like you got in a time machine and went back. Mm-hmm. And so it really felt like you were there.
Yes.
And of course, powerful performances. Jim Caviezel as Jesus, and the whole cast was fantastic. But you know, there were connections to Braveheart, just the way he filmed certain things. Like the night scenes in Braveheart and the night scenes as it opens in Gethsemane. I love the way Mel films, and it was almost at times like a painting. You're looking at a painting. Mm-hmm. Certain scenes were just wow. But this movie impacted people all around the globe. I know personally of people that came to Christ watching this movie, but audiences that would have never set foot in a church watched it, some out of anger, but they just felt they had to watch it. And now there's a movie about the resurrection of Jesus, and you're writing the screenplay, is that correct?
I'm working on it with Mel, yeah. I wrote the original screenplay, and I'm certain that he had thought of doing it in other times, but we were having dinner one night, and I said, you know, as powerful as The Passion has been, there's an even more powerful story, and we need to do that. The big thing to me is the assertion that the resurrection is real, historical, physical. I believe that totally. I also know that there are mysteries about it, in that some of his followers would see him and wouldn't recognize him at first. And you ask yourself, what's going on in that? And that's intriguing. So I'm even going on, based on what we've worked on, I'm writing what I'm calling a novel, because there's material that's not all of everything in the story is in the New Testament. It's implicit. And just like in, say, The Passion, the New Testament doesn't say Satan was in the Garden of Gethsemane, but of course we would naturally, believe that Satan was there, as he was at war with Jesus. And I do believe the movie will be one of them. It's the Mount Everest of stories.
Is it done? Is the screenplay done? You're still working on it?
We're still working on it, but you're still working it out at every stage. Even when you get down to you're editing, you have to ask yourself, what is this really about? And one of my disciplines is, what's the elevator speech? You know, what would you say if you had 60 seconds? Here's what this is. One of the things I really love about Mel is he is as honest. He's more honest about his flaws than any of his critics are about his flaws. And he's aware of his vulnerability. And the first thing he said to me when I said, we really need to do the resurrection, he said, we have to be sure of our spirits. This can't be about the money. It can't be about our egos. It can't be about vindication or payback to our critics or any of that. And God bless you. That is a beautiful thing to say. A key component for me about the resurrection story, I want to know more of why he's on the cross. I want to know how he got there. Anyway, well, we all know that. No, actually, we don't all know that. And we want to know what you think. And we want to, what do you as a filmmaker want to say to the audience of, this is why this was happening. So my traditional version of the story, and the one I'm writing in the novel version, is that you've got Peter. You start with Jesus's death on the cross, and Peter's absolutely wretched experience, and that is he is just eaten up with guilt. He goes back in his memories to meeting Jesus for the first time with John the Baptist.
I love that.
And how Jesus called those disciples. And I want to try a thought out on you. Tell me how you feel about this. A revelation for me about this is there is a proof of the resurrection. You know, people will say, well, it's preposterous and I can't. N.T. Wright, a British thinker, would say, if you don't think it's preposterous, you're missing the point. Mm-hmm. It blows away all of your conceptions. We all know, every human being would say, oh, Jesus was a brilliant teacher.
Yeah.
You know, whether they may not like Christians, they may don't like church, they have had a bad experience. But here's the thing. We would have never heard his name or heard one thing he said except for one event, the resurrection. His crucifixion, if that had been the end, right, it was over. Yeah. His disciples, they didn't expect it.
And, you know, the disciples on the Emmaus Road, he joined them and he, you know, says, why are you so sad? Well, haven't you heard about the things of Jesus of Nazareth? And then Jesus says, well, what things? So now they're telling Jesus about Jesus.
Yeah.
And he listens and they say, you know, he was crucified and it's been 3 days since this happened. And we hoped he would have been the Messiah or the one to deliver Israel. Hope, past tense. So they had no idea that they were talking to the risen Savior.
Yes.
Until he made himself known to them. They break bread and all of a sudden, like to your point, like why didn't they know? I don't know why they didn't recognize him. Because he said to his disciples after he appeared, it is I, it's not another. It's not like he was translucent. It's not like he floated. He was physical, risen Jesus with the marks of the crucifixion in his hands and feet still, but yet recognizable, but yet not always recognizable, yet appearing in a room without using a door. Yes. So there's all these interesting little twists and turns on it, but they weren't expecting it. And the way that they all pretty much went to die the death of a martyr, with the exception of John the Beloved, who was banished to the island of Patmos. If it wasn't true, one of them would have said, it's not true. We made this up. I'm on my deathbed. Why do I want to perpetuate this myth? But none of them said that because they couldn't deny what they had seen and experienced.